الاثنين عملاء دول بقوا 10 عملاء.
Because they told others about us.
لأن هم ببساطة قالوا للناس تانية عننا.
We did the same thing with those 10 other clients.
وعملنا نفس الحاجة مع ال10 التانيين.
And it grew to 50 clients.
فبقوا 15.
We were the fastest growing of all of the United States.
فاحنا بقينا أسرع ناس بنكبر في كل أمريكا.
Still to this day.
حتى النهاردة لحد اليوم ده.
No other owner.
مفيش ناس تانية
for that organization
لنفس المنظمة
has grown as fast as we did.
كبروا زي ما احنا كبرنا.
And I believe
وانا مصدق
it was simply because we cared about relationships.
ده كان ببساطة لأن احنا اهتمينا ببناء العلاقات.
We believe relationships is our barn.
احنا صدقنا انه بناء العلاقات هو الحظيرة بتاعتنا.
If we build relationships,
لو احنا بنينا علاقات,
everything else will take care of itself.
أي حاجة تانية هتهتم بنفسها.
Thanks, Katie. Isn't that a good example?
مش ده مثل كويس؟
Okay, so I want you to take a second and I want you to think, is there a problem or a situation that you're facing right now that if you could have another perspective or a big picture perspective, it would make it different?
عايزاكم تفكروا دلوقتي ثانية، هل في مشكلة انتوا بتقابلوها حاليا لو قررتوا تبصوا لها بمنظور مختلف او تبصوا على الصورة الأكبر ده هيكون بيساعدكم؟
Would anybody want to share one?
حد يحب يشاركنا؟
Can you think?
حد فكر؟
I'll give you a minute.
هديكوا دقيقة.
And any of the leaders here in the school, if you have an example, please share with us.
والقادة هنا بتوع الجامعة لو حد منكم يحب يشاركنا بمثل.
You may need to think about it a little. Oh, was there someone? Yes. Oh, repeat the question. Can you think of a problem or a challenge that you're facing right now?
ممكن تشاركونا بمشكلة أو تحدي أنتوا بتواجهوه حالياً؟
That you're thinking maybe if I had a different perspective on that problem.
ولو فكرتوا إنه لو إحنا فكرنا في المشكلة دي برؤية مختلفة أو بمنظور مختلف.
It might help it get better.
ده هيساعد إن هي تتحل أو تبقى أحسن.
Yes.
أنا يعني
You can speak in Arabic. It's okay.
الحاجة الوحيدة اللي بواجهها يعني إني أنا طلعت من بلدي مع أهلي وتركت جامعتي وتركت شغلي وتركت أصدقائي كلهم، جيت هنا لمصر. بديت حياة جديدة طبعا هنا، وحاولت أدرس من جديد وأسجل جامعة جديدة، وأطمح يعني أوصل لمرتبة كويسة في الدراسة. وطبعا بشتغل مع إني بدرس يعني إلى جانب دراسة، بشتغل عشان أمضي جامعتي يعني، وأقدر أساعد نفسي في المصروف بتاع الجامعة يعني، وأخلص نفسي إن شاء الله عشان أمشي الجامعة يعني، وأتخرج وأجيب شهادة وأشتغل بيها يعني، وأعمل حاجة كويسة. بس.
Probably many of you are facing that.
أكيد ناس كتيرة منكم بتواجه ده.
So I encourage you to talk with each other, talk with your teachers, talk with your leaders.
بشجعكم قوي إن أنتوا تتكلموا مع بعض ومع المدرسين بتوعكم ومع القادة بتوعكم.
To help get a big picture perspective on how to move forward.
عشان يساعدوكم إنكم تكونوا منظور مختلف في إنه إزاي تكونوا بتمشوا في الاتجاه ده.
Okay, let's talk about the third color.
هنتكلم عن ثالث لون.
And the third color is courage.
وثالث لون هو الشجاعة.
Who in here has ever done something that you were so afraid to do?
مين هنا عمل حاجة كان خايف جدا إن هو يعملها؟
What did you do?
Yes, I left my friends who stayed with me for 10 years.
Yes.
Just lived alone.
Yes. So she left her friends. How many of you are here and you're from another country besides Egypt?
كم واحد منكم هنا من بلد غير مصر؟
So you've traveled far. That's a scary thing to do.
فانتوا سافرتوا لحته بعيده ودي حاجه مش سهله.
Who else has done something that was scary to do? Yes.
I'm afraid to start sales. I'm afraid to start the sales from 3 years ago.
Okay.
Then when I started to try it and make calls and make relations with customers, after 2 months and for 6 months, I will be the sales manager in networkers company.
That's
Sales
great.
process.
That's great. But it took courage to step into a new job that you thought, I don't even know if I can do this
I
job.
had technical courses and network, but I started.
Exactly. Now I'm looking, JT, my buddy that I work with,
جيتي زميلي اللي بشتغل معاه.
do you know what JT did on the second date when he was beginning to date who is now his wife?
عارفين هو عمل ايه في تاني مره قابل اللي هي دلوقتي مراته؟
JT, what did you guys do?
نطوا من طياره.
Ladies, would you want to go skydiving on a date?
هل حد فيكم يحب يروح سكاي دايفنج في اول؟
I would be so scared.
دي كانت حاجه مرعبه قوي.
Has anybody else done something that you were very scared to do?
حد فيكم عمل حاجه خايفه قوي؟
Yes.
I have stepped in one cage with a lion, and I have taken a photo with it.
Oh my goodness. She stepped into a cage with a lion.
That's awesome.
And took the picture.
Yeah.
She's got the picture to prove it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I'm in a room full of courageous people.
انا في اوضه مليانه بناس شجاعه.
And I want to tell you our next image on courage.
وعايزه اقول لكم عن الصوره بتاعتنا عن الشجاعه.
Courage is such an important part of leadership.
الشجاعه جزء مهم قوي قوي من القياده.
Because I believe that every great leader was willing to take initiative and take a risk to accomplish something.
لانه انا مصدقه انه دي احتياج عند كل قائد عنده استعداد انه ياخد مبادره ويعمل حاجه يحققها.
I believe if you are going to have a job as a leader,
انا بصدق انه لو انتوا كنتوا هتكونوا بتشتغلوا كقاده،
no matter what that role is,
بغض النظر عن ايه الدور اللي هتكونوا بتعملوه،
part of that job description is going to say, have courage.
جزء من الوصف الوظيفه اللي هتكونوا بتعملوها هيكون ان يكون عندكم شجاعه.
I bet if you take Dr. Ahmed to coffee,
انا براهن ان انتوا لو خدتوا دكتور احمد تشربوا معاه قهوه،
I have a feeling there were many points in his career where he had to step out and take a risk.
عندي احساس انه هيحكي لكم عن اوقات كتيره في حياته المهنيه كان لازم بياخد تحدي.
This is what leaders do.
وده اللي القاده بيعملوه.
Please.
In a second, I was working for Georgia Tech School of Information and Computer Science. I was in project management to have a network in Egypt. And the orders, the straight orders, is not to spend $1 locally here. I spend only Egyptian pounds. And we were out of Egyptian pounds, local currency, and there was salaries and there was a holiday. So I risked my position, I swear. I was about to be fired. And in '83, my salary was $1,500. Imagine. And I took a decision and signed a check in dollars. And my director in Atlanta, he said, I cannot have any cover for you, and you are risking your job. The result that Joseph Pettit, the president of Georgia Tech, gave me a raise and a letter of recommendation for risk taking. That was it.
I love that story. I think that if I came back to Egypt in 20 years,
اعتقد انه لو جيت مصر تاني كمان 20 سنه،
I think many of you in this room are going to have a similar story.
هلاقي ناس كتيره قوي منكم هنا عندهم قصص مماثله.
So let me share with you the image that we're going to learn for courage.
فخلوني اشارك معاكم الصوره اللي بتتكلم عن الشجاعه.
Well, let me ask you first, what is the image that reminds us to have character?
ايه الصوره اللي بتفكرنا ان احنا يكون عندنا شخصيه؟
What was the first image?
ايه اول صوره؟
Iceberg. Very good. Okay. And then we learned about perspective. What was the second image? Barn building. Okay. Here we go. Look at this. Has anybody ever seen a big old gorilla like that?
حد شاف صورة دي قبل كده أو
Maybe at the zoo?
ولا في ممكن في ال
The Planet of Apes movie.
What?
The Planet of Apes movie.
Oh, Planet of the Apes movie. Okay. That's right. So this image is based on a true story of someone that I worked with.
الصورة دي مبنية على قصة حقيقية حصلت لحد اشتغلت معاه.
So a number of years ago, there was a man named David, and he worked for Growing Leaders.
من كذا سنة كان في واحد بيشتغل في Growing Leaders اسمه ديفيد.
And he was maybe like you. When he was in college, he had another job to help put himself through school.
وهو كان زيك لما كان في الجامعة كان بيضطر يشتغل حاجة مختلفة عشان تساعده في دراسته.
And he lived in Los Angeles, California, and he worked on movies and television and commercials.
وكان بيشتغل في لوس أنجلوس في كاليفورنيا على الحاجات الأفلام والإعلانات.
And one day he was in his room at the university.
وفي يوم كان في الأوضة بتاعته في الجامعة.
And the phone rang and he answered the phone.
والتليفون رن ورد على التليفون.
And his boss said, "We are going to film a commercial for a car in Hawaii in 2 days."
ومديره قال له احنا هنصور اعلان في هاواي كمان يومين.
And do you know Hawaii? That is about a 7-hour flight from California across the ocean.
وهاواي هي على بعد 7 ساعات بالطيارة من كاليفورنيا.
And he said, "We want to show how strong the back of the car is."
وقال له احنا عايزين نظهر مدى قوة ظهر العربية.
And so we want to put a gorilla in the car.
فبالتالي هنحط غوريلا جوه العربية.
So he said, "David, you need to get a gorilla in Hawaii in 2 days."
فمديره قال له انت يا ديفيد محتاج تجيب غوريلا كمان يومين في هاواي.
Can you even imagine?
متخيلين؟
He hung up the phone and he thought, "I'm just a college student.
فهو قفل التليفون وقال انا مجرد طالب في الجامعة.
I don't own a gorilla.
انا ما عنديش غوريلا.
I don't know where a gorilla is."
ما اعرفش هي فين.
But there was something inside of David that he said, "I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen."
لكن كان في حاجة جواه بتقول له أنا هكتشف إزاي هخلي ده يحصل.
And he began to make many phone calls.
وابتدى يعمل مكالمات كتيرة.
And he found a local zoo that said that he could borrow their gorilla.
ولقى حدائق حيوان محلية ممكن إن هو يكون بيأجر منها الغوريلا.
And then he found an airline that was willing to fly the gorilla to Hawaii.
ولقى شركة طيران ممكن إن هي تاخد الغوريلا دي على الطيارة.
Now, had to be a big plane.
لازم تكون كبيرة قوي.
Yes. And did you know he was 20 years old?
وكان عنده 20 سنة.
And he, in 2 days, got a gorilla in Hawaii.
وهو عنده 20 سنة قدر إنه يجيب غوريلا في هاواي.
So whenever our team sees this image,
فكل مرة الفريق بتاعنا بيشوف الصورة دي.
we say leaders are courageous and they do whatever it takes to get the job done.
بيقولوا إن القادة هم شجاعين جدا وبيقدروا يخلوا أي حاجة تتعمل.
If we're having a very busy week with many projects in our office,
لو احنا عندنا أسبوع مزحوم جدا بمشاريع كتيرة قوي في المكتب بتاعنا.
I can walk in and say to our team,
أقدر أدخل وأقول للفريق بتاعي.
This is a gorillas in Hawaii week.
احنا في ده الأسبوع بتاع الغوريلا اللي في هاواي.
And they automatically know we're going to need to dig in, work hard, do whatever it takes to get the job done.
فهم على طول بيعرفوا إن احنا هنشتغل بطريقة أقوى وأصعب وهنعمل الشغل المطلوب مننا.
Now, back in the 1960s, there was a very famous athlete, and his name was Dick Fosbury.
في 1960 كان في رياضي مشهور قوي اسمه ديك فاسبري.
JT, can you do, since I can't do the video, would you think we can? Yeah. Okay.
هنشغل فيديو.
How many of you have ever watched, would you call it a track meet? What would you call it?
High jump.
Have you ever watched a meet with different like jumps and running athletes? Yes.
انتوا عمركم شفتوا اللي هما بينطوا بيعملوا نطات مختلفة؟
And you've seen someone do this high jump?
ألعاب قوة.
Yes. Okay. Back in the before 1960,
قبل 1960
if you were going to compete in the high jump,
لو انت كنت هتدخل في منافسة في
you
النطة
would run toward the pole.
الوثب العالي.
You would run toward the pole
لازم تجري بسرعة قوي
and go over it forward.
وتنط اللي قدامه.
But Dick Fosbury said, I think there might be a better way.
لكن ديك قال انه انا متخيل انه في طريقة احسن من دي.
And he said, I'm going to be courageous and I'm going to try to find a better way to get over that pole.
وقال انا شجاع وهعمل طريقة مختلفة عشان اطلع فوق الخط ده.
So I can go higher, higher, higher.
فاقدر اكون بطلع اعلى واعلى.
So the video is in English.
فالفيديو بالانجلش.
But even if you can't catch all the words,
بس حتى لما قدرتوش تسمعوا كل الكلام.
I think you'll see what happens just by watching the video.
أنا متأكدة إن تشوفوا اللي حصل بمجرد مشاهدة الفيديو.
This is actual footage from the Olympics in the 1960s.
ده تصوير من الأولمبيكس بتاعت 1960.
The 1968 Olympic Games proved to be a turning point in the history of the high jump event. Into the Mexico City Olympic arena came not only a new name to the sport, but a new approach, which was to revolutionize the high jump event. Dick Fosbury from the United States demonstrated a new style of high jump, which some considered strange and awkward. It was a jump he had devised in the previous years, and one which unsettled his opponents. While the crowd at first saw him as a novelty, his continued success at clearing the ever-increasing height soon made it apparent he was a serious contender. Valentin Gavrilov from the Soviet Union failed at his attempt of 2.22 meters, while Fosbury and his US teammate Edward Carruthers cleared their way to a jump-off. The bar sat at 2.24. Carruthers failed, and Fosbury took his new style of high jump over the bar and into the history books. Fosbury had won his gold. Within a few years, the Fosbury flop had become the standard method of jumping in this great Olympic sport.
Could many of you understand?
Yes.
قدرتوا تفهموا؟
Yes. So at the beginning, when people watched him do this new style of jumping,
في البداية لما الناس كانت بتشوفه بينط بطريقة مختلفة وجديدة.
they said that is strange. We don't understand it.
قعدوا يقولوا ده غريب احنا مش فاهمين اللي هو بيعمله.
Nobody else wanted to try it.
ما حدش تاني كان عايز يجربه.
But he was courageous and he said, I think it's a better way to clear the bar higher.
لكن هو كان شجاع وقال انه دي طريقة احسن عشان ينط بيها.
And he went home with an Olympic gold medal.
ورجع لبيته معاه الميدالية الذهبية.
This is my application for you.
فده التطبيق بتاعي ليكم.
Sometimes you might do something or people do something because it's always been done that way.
ساعات كتيرة بنعمل حاجات أو ناس بتعمل حاجات لمجرد إن هي دي الطريقة اللي بتتعمل بيها.
Have you ever been in a job and you said, why do we do it that way?
عمرك كنت بتعمل شغل معين وفكرت إن هو إحنا ليه بنعملها كده؟
And maybe somebody older said, well, that's just how we do it.
وحد أكبر منك جه وقال لك هي دي بقى الطريقة اللي إحنا بنعملها بيها.
It's always been done that way.
إنه دايماً طول عمرها كانت بتتعمل بالطريقة دي.
I think great leaders challenge that kind of reasoning.
أنا بصدق إنه القادة العظام دايماً بيتحدوا الطريقة دي في التفكير.
That you're constantly saying, is there a better way to do it?
ودايماً يسألوا نفسهم هل في طريقة أحسن ممكن نعمل بيها؟
Is there a faster way to get it done?
هل في طريقة أسرع نقدر نحققها بيها؟
Is there a way that would have better results?
أو في طريقة تطلع نتائج أحسن؟
And we don't get so stuck in the way we're doing something
وما نبقاش مزنوقين في الطريقة اللي احنا بنعمل بيها الحاجة.
that we're not willing to change.
وإن احنا ما يكونش عندنا رغبة في التغيير.
Again, I have great respect for Mr. Ahmed.
أنا تاني بأكد احترامي لدكتور أحمد.
Dr. Ahmed, I could learn from him. I need to sit under his teaching.
انا بحب اتعلم منه وعندي استعداد ان انا اقعد قدامه واتعلم.
But when we met 2 days ago,
ولما اتقابلنا من يومين
he said, maybe I can learn something from you.
قال انا ممكن اكون بتعلم حاجه منك.
Maybe there's a new way for me to think about leadership.
ممكن يكون في طرق جديده ليا افكر فيها بخصوص القياده.
That makes me respect his courage as a leader.
وده خلاني احترم شجاعته كقائد.
Here's another example.
وهنا مثل تاني.
Let me go back. There was a man named Roger Bannister. Has anyone ever heard of him?
كان في راجل اسمه روجر بانستر، حد سمع عنه؟
Okay. Tell me, what do you know about Roger Bannister?
He broke the barrier.
That is exactly right. When Roger Bannister came along, they said no human being can run a mile under 4 minutes.
لما هو كان موجود كانوا دايما بيقولوا ان محدش يقدر يجري ميل في اقل من 4 دقائق.
It cannot be done.
ده لا يمكن يحصل.
Roger Bannister said, I think maybe it can.
روجر بانستر قال لا ممكن حد يعملها.
And he tried new training techniques.
وابتدى يجرب طرق مختلفة في التمرين.
And in the 1950s, he broke that barrier and he ran a mile under 4 minutes.
وفي 1950 كسر الحاجز ده وقدر يحقق انه يجري ميل في اقل من 4 دقائق.
Do you know how many people have run a mile under 4 minutes since Roger Bannister?
عارفين كام واحد قدر يجري الميل ده في اقل من 4 دقائق من بعد روجر بانستر؟
Almost 800 people.
حوالي 800 شخص.
It could be done.
إنه ده ممكن يتعمل.
But it took courage for him to try.
بس كانت شجاعة منه إنه يجرب.
So let's talk about courage.
خلونا نتكلم عن الشجاعة.
Courage is contagious. If you are courageous, it will help other people around you to have courage.
الشجاعة معدية، فلو أنت شجاع هتخلي كل اللي حواليك كمان شجاعين.
It is also initiating and doing what you might be afraid of doing.
وده بيساعدك إنك تبتدي حاجة أنت كنت طول عمرك خايف إنك تعملها.
Even if that means going with a friend and jumping out of a plane.
حتى لو كان ده يعني إن أنت تروح مع حد من أصدقائك وتنط من طيارة.
It's the willingness to let go of what's familiar.
هي الإرادة إنك تسيب كل حاجة متعارف عليها أو معروفة.
How many of you are studying technology, computers, something in technology? Many?
Computers technology.
Yes. You are probably soon going to have a job that doesn't even exist today.
انتوا قريب قوي ممكن تكونوا بتنضموا لوظيفة هي حاجة مش موجودة أصلا دلوقتي.
Because things are changing so fast.
لأنه ده بيتغير بسرعة قوي في التكنولوجيا.
So it's going to take courage to be able to take a risk and say I'm going to try and grow in something new.
فده هيتطلب منكم شجاعة إن انتوا تاخدوا ريسك وتجربوا حاجة جديدة.
Whoops. Sorry. So two very important things that you've got to do to begin to build your courage.
ففي حاجتين مهمين قوي هيساعدوكم إن انتوا تبنوا الشجاعة عندكم.
Sometimes one of the most courageous things you can do is to honor a commitment that you have made.
ساعات من أهم الحاجات اللي هتبني الشجاعة عندكم إن انتوا تحترموا التزام انتوا التزمتوا بيه.
And then I also want you to begin looking and saying, are there some risk that you could take to try something new?
وهيكونوا بتفكروا في اوقات هل ممكن يكون في مخاطره معينه ان انتوا تكونوا بتعملوها تجربوا حاجه ما عملتوهاش قبل كده.
I work with many college students all over the world.
بشتغل مع طلبه كتير قوي في كل حته في العالم.
And I think in our culture today, students are more afraid to fail.
وفي ثقافتنا دلوقتي الطلبه دايما بيبقى عندهم خوف من ان هم يسقطوا.
They think I don't know if I want to try it, I might not be good at it.
وبيخافوا ان هم يجربوا اي حاجه جديده ممكن ما يكونوش كويسين فيها.
And I don't want to fail.
وانا مش عايزه اكون بفشل.
But do you know what? No great leader ever got where they went without trying and maybe failing along the way.
مفيش قائد قدر يوصل اللي هو عايز يوصل له من غير ما يكون بيجرب وكمان في اوقات بيفشل.
There is an American businesswoman that has a very successful company in the United States.
في بزنس وومن أمريكية عندها شركة كبيرة قوي في أمريكا.
And And I recently listened to her talk about her childhood.
وسمعتها من قريب وهي بتتكلم عن طفولتها.
And I loved the story.
وحبيت قوي القصة بتاعتها.
She said growing up when they would eat dinner together as a family at night.
وبتقول انه هي لما كانت صغيرة وكانوا بيعملوا العشاء مع بعض الساعة 9.
The question that her father would ask she and her brother every single night.
السؤال اللي كان باباها بيسألها ليها هي وأخوها كل الليلة.
What did you fail at today?
ايه اللي فشلتوا فيه النهارده؟
What did you try and mess up today?
ايه الحاجة اللي حاولتوا تعملوها وفشلت منكم؟
And if they hadn't tried something new,
ولو ما كانوش جربوا حاجة جديدة،
he would say, "That's too bad. You need to do that tomorrow."
كان بيقول دي حاجة وحشة أوي انتوا محتاجين تعملوا ده بكرة.
Because he thought this is good for you to try things, and even though you might fail, you're going to keep learning.
لأنه كان مقتنع إنه دي حاجة مهمة أوي إنه ما يكونوا بيجربوا حاجات جديدة حتى لو هيفشلوا فيها.
So let's talk about how you can develop courage.
فخلونا نتكلم ازاي انتوا ممكن تطوروا الشجاعة عندكم.
How many of you think that in the next couple of months when you're here at school,
كم واحد فيكم بيفكر في الشهور اللي جاية وانتوا هنا في الجامعة؟
do you think that you might be willing to stretch out and try something new that you've never tried before?
هل ممكن تفكروا ان انتوا ممكن تكونوا بتجربوا حاجة عمركم ما جربتوها قبل كده؟
Maybe a different class,
يمكن حاجة مختلفة تدرسوا حاجة
or
مختلفة.
meeting another friend, or getting involved in some other type of activity.
أو إن انتوا تكونوا حد من أصحابكم أو تبقوا مهتمين ب activity جديدة.
Good to keep stretching yourself.
حاولوا إن انتوا دايما تمدوا نفسكم يعني تجربوا حاجات مختلفة.
It's good for you to share and tell others what you're trying to do so they can kind of hold you accountable.
حلو قوي ان انتوا تشاركوا مع اصحابكم مع بعض ايه الحاجات الجديده اللي ممكن تكونوا بتجربوها.
And I think that you can talk to other people that you say, I respect you. You have made a courageous decision in your life.
وحلو قوي ان انتوا تشجعوا بعض وتقولوا انا بحترمك انت جربت حاجه جديده.